listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellan Fluckiger, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hey, so welcome to Your Ultimate Life today. Isn't this a beautiful picture behind me? Now, your weather may look exactly like that. When I was in Phoenix, and Joy and I lived in Phoenix for a lot of years, it looked just like this in November and even December. The temperature would change, but the sky was just that blue. Now, this is not a picture in Phoenix. It's actually a picture of in Edmonton, Alberta, in the frozen north where I live. And it does not look like that outside right now. It is snow. We have perma snow, and we have it from about, funny, there wasn't really a lot of snow until about a week ago, and all of a sudden, several inches came down, and it won't melt until April. Perma snow, right? The next week, we don't even get above freezing during the daytime. Oh, dear. Yeah, I guess it is the frozen north. But anyway, this is a picture of the street where we lived before in Edmonton, just not in the house we're in now. And behind me, on this side of the street, actually, that way, a little ways, is the house we had. And this was a picture down the street, and overgrown canopies of, beautiful trees and stuff. Gorgeous. Looked just exactly like that. Unretouched photo. Pretty. And I like to use it as background sometimes. Today, I want to talk to you about your ultimate life. I've had the opportunity in the last little while to have several conversations with brand new people. I'm a coach, a coaching business. I have a coaching business, and I help people do impossible things. I'm an alchemist, part science and part magic, because the capability of the human, the capability of this spirit that we are, it's having a mortal experience inside of these bodies, these skin bags. The essence of us is spiritual. We have power that we don't even know we have. You hear things like, well, we only use 10% of our brain or some number. Well, you know what? I can tell you, you're only using 5% of your spiritual capacity. That is a fact. And that means, that's not an indictment, it's just an interesting observation. That means if you lived full out, all in, can you imagine the joy, the prosperity, the power that you could create? Now, I know that you've experienced that. I want you to think back right now with me for a day or two a day when you had an amazing just confidence in yourself. Maybe you were given a presentation. Maybe nothing was going on, but some things conspired to put you on top of the world. And whatever you did that day was magic, like you had the wind at your back. Everything went right, and things felt good, broke well for you, and all that stuff. So here's the question. Why did that happen? Was it an accident? Was it caused by some externality? Or was there something in you? Now, things might happen outside of you. You might get a check back from your taxing authority, IRS in the U.S., and CRA, Canada Revenue Agency here in Canada. You might get a big refund check. Ooh, you can buy that, whatever, right? Or maybe you landed a big client. Or maybe you asked somebody to marry you and they said yes. Or, some other powerful, or you thought you maybe had cancer and they said, no, you're cancer-free. Or some other thing that made you feel powerful, invincible almost. I want you to ask yourself a question. Why is that power limited to just a few days? Seemingly accidental in nature, seemingly random stuff. It just kind of shows up. Oops. What if, now just go with me here for a minute. What if you could intentionally create that? What if you could intentionally create a state of confidence, flow, creativity, and power? Confidence, flow, creativity, and power. And that you absolutely knew what you wanted to create was within the realm of possibility, and not only in the realm of possibility, but within your grasp. Like you can experience it in your body, having that thing, that circumstance, that outcome. Why does that only happen once in a while? Well, you may have all kinds of answers to that, but my suggestion, and in fact, my life experience, is that it can happen anytime you want. Ooh, and now that might be bold enough. It can happen anywhen you want, but now I'm really going to get to you, because that includes the days when you got a big bill from the IRS instead of a refund, or when you got diagnosed and said, yes, you have cancer instead of no, you don't. You can still have the wind at your back, an outrageous day, and feel powerful and on top of the world. Now you might really think I'm nuts. That's okay, I am. But what I'm telling you is still true. Okay? So let's explore how that works. In order to do that, we have to get to some fundamentals about who we are. One view is that we're some biological accident that just, somebody said the universe is just something that happens from time to time. Accidentally the Big Bang and created galaxies and universes and coalescing planets and stars, and oops, accidentally life evolved and all that stuff. Impossible. Utterly impossible and illogical and not even remotely feasible. And, here's the funny thing. I'm going to take these headphones out. You know what the funny thing is? I read. I love cosmology. I love studying, the millionth of a second or the trillionth of a second after the Big Bang, and Planck time and inflation versus the speed of light and all that stuff. And if you dig into that stuff, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't worry about it. But here's what I notice. Every other week, I'll see some news article that says, wow, we've now discovered with the new XYZ telescope, radio dorkstick, some new galaxy cluster that is moving so fast or so far away that it completely challenges everything we know, and we may have to redo everything we know about physics. And it makes me laugh. One of them I saw the other day doubled the age of the universe, said instead of 13.8 billion years, we now think maybe it's like 26 billion years, because they saw something in the one of the telescopes in the outer reaches of galaxy clusters that can't be that dense because of this, that, and the other. The truth? The truth is there is an organizing intelligence. You and I were created on purpose, not by accident. Now, you can call that whatever you want. I'll call it God, the universe, all-powerful, but I call it God. I'm pretty confident about that because in 2018 I died. And when I died, I had 3 distinct and separate conversations with God at the door between life and eternity. And I'm not here to preach religion or to get you to do or change anything. Just telling you that's what I experienced. And in one of those, I had a vision and a trip through the universe that was mind-blowing for me. And I'm not going to spend a bunch of time talking about it because we don't have time. But if you're interested in reading about it, there's a book called Meeting God at the Door. Meeting God at the Door, Conversations, Choices, and Commitments of a Near-Death Experience. So I invite you to read that if you want the details. But here's what I know, one of the many things that I learned in that set of conversations, and that's you and me. We are intentionally, lovingly, carefully crafted divine beings. Literally, we are children of God. Now, you can give that God the name that makes sense to you. Higher self, universe, overarching intelligence, whatever you want. But it's there and they created us. So here's some things I want to get to the base. Because my premise to start with is you can create whatever you want. And you know how I know that wasn't from a conversation at the door. It wasn't because I just say woo-woo stuff. My life experience has taught me that. 17 years ago, in 2007, I had a life-changing, and it wasn't when I died, that was 2018. 17 years ago, I had a life-changing experience that let me realize there was a different path than the one I was on. The one I was on was corporate, make a lot of money, do a lot of stuff, big deal and all that. Typical, the goals were given as we grow up, And I had lived that with full out till I was 52. And when I was 52, a bunch of stuff changed in my life. And again, we don't have time for that story, but if you want it, I've told it. That's in a different book called Tightrope of Depression: My Journey from Darkness, Despair, and Death to Light, Love, and Life. Nevertheless, as a result of that experience, I radically changed everything I was being and doing, left the entire career of 30 years, still in the C-suite, that kind of thing, just radically started over. Best decision I ever made. What I've discovered on this path is the truth of that thing that we hear: you can create whatever you want. You create your life. All those things that you hear in personal development, the barriers and blocks and spells. I know one guy that calls those things spells. They are the context. I call them context. They are the series of beliefs and definitions, experiences, expectations, spells, bewitchments that are on you that you've accumulated since you were born. They're not real. They have a real impact, and they can disappear the minute you choose to let them go. You can let them go instantly. Now, that's a bold claim. I'm not going to defend it or do anything else. I've experienced it. So that's why I know it's true, and I've helped others do the same thing. Many. And in the process, that's why I've written all the books, 20 books that I've written, because it just talks about how to do that and what there is to learn and the glories and opportunities that we all have. Gee, I don't want to live using 10% of my brain power or 5% of my spirit, who I really am, a divine being in this world. In one of the scriptures, it says, "Know ye not that ye are gods, even children of God?" So I don't know exactly where that is, but it's in one of the sacred books somewhere. And the fact is, it's true. And you know what? You know that because you feel that at times. I got a client I just talked to the other day, and he's been through cancer, I don't know, several times. I don't know how many, but not more than once, 5 or 6, 47, I don't know. But I think it's like 5 or 6 times. Diagnosis, came back, you're going to die, et cetera, et cetera. And he said to me during that time, he believed emphatically that there was no God, God had abandoned him, and a bunch of other stuff. Today, on the other side of some more experience, he's quite convinced that this same divine power has created miracles. And moreover, he's now committed to himself that he's going to take that experience that he has about this self-creation and use it to serve and lift and bless other people, to realize the same thing, but not just to have a bunch of feel-goods, but to build business, to create relationships, to create wealth, even generational wealth, to add good to the world. And you should hear him talk about it, can chew those words and taste them. So me and many other people testify or affirm that that is the truth, that we can create anything you want. So today I titled this episode, Divinity, Capability, and Possibility. Now those are 3 words that are directly connected to this path that I'm talking about. Because if you take the view that we're some freak accident and there's no meaning to our existence, then nothing means anything and you just fool around here for 10 years or 100 years till you croak and whoop-de-doo. But deep in your heart, you know darn well that's not true. And though you go through valleys of darkness and the dark night of the soul and a bunch of other stuff, like my friend, like I have, like probably you have, and you question everything and you may go run out in the street and scream at God and whatever, you know there is more to life than that, and that you and I, we're living at a fraction of our potential. And my commitment, as you know, if you listen to these, is to reach this year, and my year starts October 14th, which is now 6 weeks ago, but to reach 300 million people, not just to reach them, but help you, as one of those, understand that truth, that you're divine and that you have infinite capability, and then do something with it. Hearing a message is one thing. Believing it is another. Taking action is the only one that matters. So if you knew at this moment that there was a way to create those powerful, focused, successful days at will, if you knew that you could create any life experience you wanted, purpose, prosperity, and joy, would you take the road that goes there? Would you take me up on that challenge? Or would you say, I don't believe it. It's too hard. It's a bunch of crap. What would you say? What are you saying? Because that's not a hypothetical. Here's the good news and the bad news. The good news is it's true. You can. The bad news is most people don't want to put in the effort because it isn't an easy button. When I say you can create whatever you want, it's an absolute truth, eternally true. It's also another eternal truth that it's a journey. It's a tough mountain. It's broken glass. It's whatever it is. It's not an easy button. So the truth you can have whatever you want is infinite and eternal. And another infinite and eternal truth is you got to walk the road that goes there, which is sometimes steep and sometimes is, hard and difficult and full of sadness and trial, because creating the person, you, me, that lives that life is the game. It's not what you have, it's who you become. You become that person who lives in purpose, prosperity, and joy. Not because I have a lot of money, my purpose got delivered in an Amazon box, and therefore I'm happy. It is you declaring, I'm a divine being, I have a life purpose, I choose it, and we've done episodes on how exactly to create your triple helix and everything else, and that isn't what we're doing today, but if you don't know that, then get a hold of me. There's a yourultimatelife.ca, go there and opt in, get some free stuff, or go to my media site, KellanFluckigerMedia.com. KellanFluckigerMedia.com. That'll give you books and, podcasts, shows that you can have, plus a way to get a hold of me. So let's talk about finding your superpower, because you have one. You're a divine being and you have one. All right, so back to the thing. Divinity, capability, possibility. Those are powerful and interconnected words. The divinity, your divinity, you right here, you listening, you, not somebody else, not the one behind you, you. You are a divine being. What does that mean? It means you are created by the infinite intelligence that I'm calling God. And you can call it whatever you want. That is your genealogy. The pedigree of your spirit is written on a single line. You, God. You don't have 48 generations. You're not the 93rd cousin 15 times removed. The pedigree of your spirit is on a single line. Now, that divinity is a powerful starting point, because if you knew, like to the core of your soul, if you knew that truth, I am a child of God, I promise you, you would act differently, speak differently, create business differently, have more confidence. You would develop your gifts and talents. You would do life different. It's only when we start believing, I suck, I'm worthless, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, and that whole litany of nonsense, that we behave in accordance with that litany of nonsense. Now, I'm calling it nonsense. Please don't get offended. Nonsense because it's not true. Not saying it isn't powerful. I lived for years as a drug addict. I lived for years, I went to rehab, and I was a pathological liar and ruined 3 relationships and struggled with depression, and because I was living in those absurdities. And when I finally took control of my life, that's what changed in 2007, then I began to be able to walk this path of self-creation. And since then, I have created a life I love every moment, every second. It's joyful, it's fun. I can't wait to get up every day and get after my mission, which is 300 million people. And again, it's not just to talk to 300 million, to talk to you, to help you understand these truths that we're talking about today, and then do something with it so you can add good to the world, create purpose, prosperity, because we need that too, and joy in your unique and powerful way. So your divinity is not in question. Now, what's next? Well, the next thing is capability. So it's one thing to say, I am a divine son of the divine or daughter of the divine. I'm a divine being. That's a truth. You can't do anything to change that. Nothing you do or don't do will get rid of that truth. That's a fact. What comes from that, knowing that you're intentional, meaningful, and rooted in love and purpose, is that you have a purpose. You have a purpose. The 4 things I learned in my conversations with God, I learned a lot more than this, but 4 pillars that are true for all of us is 1, I already said this, you're an intentionally, lovingly, carefully crafted divine being. You're literally a son or daughter of the divine. Okay. 2, you and I, we have a reason to be here. We have a mission, a purpose that we not only agreed to, but we were stoked about before we came. I want you to think about that for a minute. How many times have you had the feeling, I know there's something more. I know there's something more. I don't know what it is yet, but I know there's something more. Now, I'm going to offer you a challenge right now. I'm going to ask you to spend 5 minutes tomorrow morning and every morning for a week. Give me 5 minutes to change your relationship to the truth we just talked about your divinity. Look in the mirror and say, I am a divine child of God, created from love, with purpose, and of infinite worth. Now, I don't care if you use the words exactly, but you're a divine being. You were created out of love. You have a purpose, and your value is infinite. I don't care if you live in terrible circumstances. I don't care if you're broke. I don't care what circumstance you find yourself in. You are a powerful divine creator. You may be wearing a mask. You may be wearing a disguise. You may have a backpack with 1,000 tons of rocks on your back. Metaphorical rocks, meaning experiences and sadness and hardship and abuse and negativity that was heaped on you. It does not change who you are. Now I want to get to the next one of those 3 words, divinity, capability, and possibility. Capability means what are you capable of? Now, if a dog is born of a dog, then a dog is capable of what dogs are capable of. They can learn to do different things. They can be trained. They can be service animals. They can be show dogs. You've seen dogs run around really quickly and do all these amazing athletic things. But a dog is never going to stand up on its hind legs and look at you and say, that food we had last week, I didn't really like that. Can we switch to the other stuff again? Because that isn't in a dog's DNA. So what is in your DNA? It's beyond the dog's capability. So since you're a divine being, what is your capability? Well, that's interesting. Because you're a creation of God, you have the DNA of the divine in you, in the spiritual part of you. My physical DNA came from my parents and their parents back to whatever you conceive the first one to be. I'll use Adam and Eve because that's, the traditional name. But your spiritual self, that energy that is your spirit, that would still be the same if I lost both my legs and both my arms. It wouldn't change my spirit. Okay, we're not just the body, we are an energetic spirit. So that spirit is endowed with divine DNA. That means you and I are capable of growth. And just like an infant, a baby's born and they can't talk and they can't walk and they can't feed themselves and they can't pee in a toilet till they learn and they can't control their bodily functions. And there's lots of things they can't do, but they have the capability to develop those things, right? So your DNA, your spiritual DNA, what is that? Well, that means you have the ability to develop massive intelligence. It means that you have the ability to develop empathy and love at the level of the divine. You know, just thinking about that is astounding. You have creative gifts. You have natural gifts. Maybe you have some natural gifts that come from, obvious ones like sports or art or music or something. Maybe you have more subtle gifts, like the ability to listen, or the ability to see the big picture better than others, or the ability to get right down in the weeds and do the detail. Both of those are just different gifts, and they're both so valuable. So you have divine DNA in you, and those gifts, those attributes are present in all of us, but they are in embryo, meaning undeveloped, just like an embryo in the womb develops, and after it's born, it still develops, learn to walk, talk, speak, feed itself, think, and do all the things that we learn to do. So the question for all of us is, that capability's there, that's not in question. What are we going to do to develop it? Now, it is absolutely true that we all come with different levels of ability, different abilities, some people are really smart, some people don't have that same gift, some people are talented in music, some don't have that. So everybody's got different ones, and that, I'm sure, is an absolute designed element. Okay? Remember, one of the things I told you that I learned in my conversations with God is that we have a mission and purpose that we not only agreed to, but we were stoked about before we came. So I'm quite sure that our gifts and abilities have to do with the mission and purpose that we agreed to and were stoked about. We were given the gifts and the talents we need to both enjoy and complete that work. So anytime I spend saying, oh, I wish I was taller or shorter, or have more of this ability, or longer fingers so I could play the piano faster or better. And I played for 50 years, more than that, 60 years. So I play, quite well, but if I had longer fingers, maybe I could X, Y, Z. No, the question is, given what I have, and the truth that I have a divine capability in embryo, what am I going to do with that? Am I going to spend my days bitching about why things are different than I want? Or bitching about why other people do this or that, or governments, or even elections, or any of that? Or am I going to spend my time examining, exploring the divine DNA and developing it to do good, to add good to the world? You and me, we're built to love and serve each other. You can argue with that all you want. Yeah, we need to make cash and make boatloads, but make it to add good to the world. Make it to serve and to lift and to bless and to love. Before, when I had more money than I knew what to do with, I was a disaster. Now, I'm loving making big cash, and every single piece of it goes, to reach my 300 million people. That's it. That's all I do, one thing. How can I reach more? To help you understand the truth of who you are, take a message seriously, and then make a choice to take action and do something so you can create purpose, prosperity, and joy. So your capability is not in question. Your divine heritage is not in question. Your capability is not in question. And those are not the same thing, because we're both of divine heritage, but your gifts and talents look completely different than mine. Your life experience is completely different than mine. That makes how you show up and what you can offer the world completely different than every other person breathing air on the planet. That is a glorious thing, because that means you and I, we are one of a kind, baby. But most of us don't do anything with that powerful truth. Now, my wife is a dealer of collectibles and antiques and stuff. And one of the things that her dad did, he was an archaeologist, is he collected a lot of Hudson's Bay artifacts. Now, Hudson's Bay is a corporation. It's the oldest corporation in the world. It was incorporated in 16-something, so it's been around for 400 years, or almost, I don't know. Didn't do the math right, but a long time. It's the oldest corp in the world, and so some of the old artifacts of that are really valuable, right? And he was like I said, he was an archaeologist and collected those kinds of things. That was a skill, a talent, an interest he had. It brought education to people. It brought joy to my wife, Joy. She participated with him in some of those kinds of things. So every piece of our personal experience brings us to a new and unique place. But you know what I notice? Most people are unwilling, and this is sad, most people are unwilling to do the work that is necessary to figure out what your unique superpower is, and then do the further work to offer that to people in the world. You have a superpower. You're a divine being. You have those skills and abilities in embryo. Yours are different than everyone else's on the planet, amplified by the fact that your life experience is also vastly different. So you have something completely unique to offer the world. And unique is better than better. Back to my Hudson's Bay stuff. Those artifacts, some metal box, the fact that it's unique, literally one of a kind or one of 5 that have ever been found, that uniqueness alone makes it really valuable. It makes you really valuable. But most people that I talk to, they know that. I know. But they're unwilling to do the work required. Isn't that sad? Is that you? Are you unwilling to do the work required to live your happiest and fullest life? Do you think that somehow that's just your right and that everybody in the universe and the world is just going to do whatever it is to make your life flow? I've never experienced that. Growth is a function of work. I thought of the example of butterflies, caterpillars into butterflies, or chicks hatching in eggs. We're told that if we rip the cocoon open, the butterfly dies. The work to get out of it, that strenuous work is required so they can stay alive. Same thing with a baby chick. If you open it up and they don't have to do the work of fighting their way out of the shell, they die. So work is required to develop your capability, to develop your divine attributes in embryo. That's why I love coaching so much. That's all I do. The message is you're a divine being and you have that capability. And then the invitation is, damn it, do something with it. Figure out how you can add good to the world and make money, and then get on with it. But most people do not have the courage. Don't let that be you. Don't let that be you, because the process of growth is just like a seed. An acorn isn't an oak tree, but it has all the things necessary to become a mighty oak tree where birds build nests and all the rest. And it comes from a little acorn. All of the instructions and ingredients are in there. So are they in you and me. Only question is, are we going to do the work to create the mighty oak that is within you? The process of growth is not a mystery. It is well known. Our intention, our discipline, and faith, developing those capabilities are key attributes. If my intention is I don't give a crap and I'm not going to do anything, well, guess what? I'm a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I have no discipline, if I hadn't practiced the piano 90 million days, I would never have been any good. Today, I have 91 songs in commercial release. Put my name in on Spotify or Apple or iTunes, Apple, same thing, Amazon, whatever. You'll see a bunch of them, all different genres of music. But that came because not only did I spend thousands upon thousands of hours at the keyboard, and more thousands and thousands of hours in the recording studio, learning how to record and how to mix and stuff. So that development is available to all of us, but there are not many people who are willing to do that work. Again, don't let that be you. Now that you know you're a divine being, you have that capability, make a commitment to yourself to develop those attributes, those skills, those gifts and talents. Now, one of the things that I do is I have a daily ritual to create myself. What do I mean by that? I wake up the same way I went to sleep. When I wake up, I remind myself of all these truths. I have a document called a PTAC, Personal Truth and Commitment. Most important document on the planet. Most important words on the planet to me, because they are my agreement with God about who I am in the world and what I'm about. That process of creating that was the most soul-stretching, challenging exercise I've ever done. And finally, I wrote a book about that too. I can't help but write down all the things I've learned. That book is called Living with Purpose and Power. Living with Purpose and Power. In that book, I have poured the last 17 years worth of work about creating those kinds of agreements with yourself and with God, and about creating the daily creation process to make it real in your life so that you actually do it instead of just, oh, that's a cool thing over there. Where is that? What did it say? That's useless. So your willingness, and this is part of the thing that most people don't want to do the work, the willingness to do the work. So your intention, your discipline, your focus on developing those attributes that are within you are key. Now, the last of our three words, divinity, we've established. Capability comes with divinity, but it's dormant like it is in an acorn until you and we go to work on that and start to do something with it. The last thing is possibility, and that is the limitlessness of your creation. What is possible for you to create? Well, people have said it this way. Whatever you can think and believe, you can achieve. Yeah, that rhymes, and I give credit to somebody I don't remember who said it. Whatever someone, I think they said whatever a man, but it's a woman too, whatever a person can think or believe, they can achieve. Now, is that just a Pollyanna platitude, or is it really true? Well, let's look. You have divine capability in you. You have access to the infinite creative field around you. We already know that intention creates things. If you don't believe that, read the intention experiment. Or read a book by a friend of mine called The Science of Creating Miracles. They've demonstrated over and over and over and over and over, and 20 more overs, over and over and over again in the laboratory, that when you look at an experiment and think about it, you change the outcome. Literally, they've measured it in quadruple blind studies. Statistically significant ability to change the outcome. So you have access to that. Here's what I know. Just like learning the piano, the more you practice, the better you get. The more you practice focusing your intention, your will, your out loud declarations on what you're creating, the more motivated you become. Here's what I notice. When I do my daily creation process, DCP, daily creation process, isn't that interesting? Divinity, capability, possibility, daily creation process. Both of them are DCP. Whenever I do my daily creation process, I never skip anymore, but I used to have trouble because I didn't have the discipline yet. But here's what I notice. I get 10 times as much done. I have, not 10 times, probably 2 or 3 times as much done in a day. I have 10 times more fun. My heart is light. I'm focused. And I feel like, guess what? I got the wind at my back and anything is possible. So how do I never skip? I love how it feels, right? You do things that feel good. That's a self-reinforcing thing. The possibilities are limitless, and I mean that literally. So You can create a goal to find the relationship you want. I know people right now who specialize in helping people change who they're thinking, how they're thinking and who they're being. And then in a matter of days or weeks, they find their ultimate partner. I know people that do exactly the same thing with money. How do you think I wrote 20 books? I visualized those things being done, and then I dove in with discipline and got them done. I've written those in the 17 years that I've done this. I didn't start writing until 2009, so about 15 years. And I've got 20, and I've got 5 more underway, and there's an endless supply. And it's not that I'm magically creative or that, the topics come in by carrier pigeon. It's that you're magic. I'm magic. You have access to divine power. That's part of the capability you have. So here's the thing. Possibility is infinite. It's connected to your and my willingness to access our own discipline and the power of creation, which you're part of because you're a divine soul. Now, quotes like Thoreau said, he did the Walden Pond experiment, and he said, "This I learned by my experiment, that when one moves boldly in the direction of their dreams and attempts to live the life they have imagined, laws change, rules change." I'm paraphrasing. But what he said is, the universe comes to your aid. Crap happens that you never could have imagined. Look it up because I'm mutilating it. But he said laws act more in your favor. And what he was really saying is weird stuff we can't explain starts happening that supports your growth. That is the access of possibility. That is the truth of what happens to you and me. Now, how do you access that? Well, number one, belief. Belief. Some people say, I'll believe it when I see it. And the truth is, I'll see it when I believe it. Belief has creative power. So learn to believe in your vision and your future self, your future possibility. Visualize the bank account, the sales, the successful presentation. Athletes that are stars, they visualize completing the touchdown or the baskets or whatever sport it is. Runners do the same thing. Performers on stage do exactly the same thing. There is power in that belief. So learning to manage your belief. The next piece is imagination. Like, let your imagination run wild, like it was when you were a kid. Go back to that and end the practice of putting limits by saying, "Oh, I can't do that. That'll never happen. That's impossible." All that stuff is poison. It is literally poison that chokes the life out of your creations. Activate your imagination. Activate your belief system. And you know what the good news is? That's completely under your power. If you say, "I can't believe that," that may be true today, but you got to get to work on that because there's nothing else that can do it. Nobody else can fix that for you. You and you alone have the power to change your beliefs. If you want to know about that, I wrote a book about that too called The Book of Context, because I call this your context straitjacket, the stuff that you believe that limits your possibility. So that's another book. We all have self-doubt, not good enough, fear, and all that stuff. We weren't born that way. We learned it over our lifetime by the experiences we've had. If you learned it, you can unlearn it. This is another reason I love being a coach. I'm in the people encouragement business. I don't coach athletes. I coach mental athletes. I coach spiritual athletes. I coach people that have a vision of possibility for their business, for their impact in the world, for the things that they yearn to cause to happen. I am that catalyst. I'm that alchemist, part magic and part science, because I have witnessed and I have helped so many of these kinds of transformations. If you want help with that, figure out how to get a hold of me. KellanFluckigerMedia.com. Go there. Let's talk. If you're living half-assed, if you're living in limitation and lack, you can stay there if you want. You're free to stay there, and guess what? You will if you don't do something different. Now, the very last piece is just about something I say, staying on the path. Staying on the path. Now, that it simply means it's going to be a climb. It's going to be work. There are going to be days when you got to crawl over broken glass. There are going to be days where you think, I can't do this, where you're not good enough, where the elements seem to be conspiring against you. I don't care. You've all heard the story 3 Feet from Gold about the guy who thought there was a vein of gold somewhere. He found some, and he dug and he found it. And then he kept digging, thinking there was more. And, he just knew. And then he dug and spent his money and quit. And somebody else then bought all of his equipment, did a geological study of the area, dug 3 more feet and hit a very, very, very rich vein of gold. 3 feet from gold. Don't let that be you. You've all heard the phrase, night is darkest just before the dawn, and, the dark night of the soul comes just before the breakthrough. Those sayings are there because they're true. Stay on the path. Ask any Olympic athlete, ask any performer, ask any musician who's taken their talent to a high level. Ask anyone who's learned any skill. You got to stay on the path. Ask any weightlifter. You plateau and you got to keep going to get breakthroughs. There's all kinds of tools and methods, high intensity interval training and everything else that are all different ways to approach that. But none of them work if we don't stay on the path. Stay on the path. Stay on the path. I can testify to you from my own experience how important that is. I can't tell you how many times in the last 17 years as I was building the coaching practice, writing books and doing music and podcasts and shows like this, it was like, flip. Who am I to think I can do this? I'll never whatever. That's common. That's normal. You're forgiven. You're okay. Stay on the path. Success is gradual. You hear about people creating overnight success. That's bullshit. Okay? Overnight success that takes 10 years or 15 years. Stay on the path. Now, once in a while, there's some magic thing that happens. Somebody wins the lottery or somebody makes an amazing breakthrough. I'm not saying that never happens, but it's 1,000th of 1%. I think it was Thomas Edison, the greatest inventor of our age, said, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Well, if the greatest inventor of our time says that, who are we? Get on the path. Pick your path. It's not, your purpose isn't going to come in an Amazon box. Look at your life experience. See what calls to you, what you would love to do to add good to the world and get well paid. I promise you there's a way to do that. I've never had a conversation with somebody where in an hour it didn't become clear to them that no matter where they started, they got a story, they got powerful gifts, they have powerful experiences, and I would say you have gifts, you have powerful experiences, and you can get well paid for exactly what you want to do and be in the world. Again, the only question is, do you want to walk the road? The most powerful tool that I have, besides my daily creation process, is to get good help. Trying to do all this alone was discouraging. I did a lot of that for a lot of years. It's way faster. That's the third thing I love about being a coach. I get to be the help. I get to participate in people's breakthroughs and excitement and growth and possibility. It's the most fun you can have. It's more fun than anything. The breakthroughs, the excitement, the creation, the realization of these truths about your divinity, capability, and possibility. And then the first time you land your million, I got a client right now. That is now building a business that looks like on the trajectory they're on, within a year or two outside, they're going to be in a position to have maybe a $300 or $400 million buyout. Yeah, one of those. But it came from staying on the path, from refusing to give up, and moving forward at all costs. So here's my last thing for you. Please go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com. Check it out. There's stuff there for you. Go to YourUltimateLife.ca. There's free stuff there too. But it doesn't cost money, but it's going to cost effort. Here's what I know. I think you're amazing. You are divine. I love you. Every effort that you've made is good. Every belief that's holding you back can be evaporated and zapped out of existence. You're amazing. You're capable. My mission is to serve you in any way I can, to lift you, encourage you, bless you, create resources and coaching. If you want to talk, I'm willing to do whatever is possible that's within my capability to help you move forward and create your ultimate life.
You're listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellan Fluckiger, only on LA Talk Radio.